All right, we'll stick in the NBA and we'll now talk head coaching openings. We saw the Indiana Pacers, and somewhat maybe surprising firing. They fired their first year head coach Nate Bjorken after just one season. Meanwhile, we've already seen the Orlando Magic part ways with longtime coach Steve Clifford. The Portland Trailblazers, they've done the same thing with Terry Stotts, something that we've seen reports on previously. And we've got into a little bit about Brad Stevens being elevated to the position of general manager as Danny Ainge retired. So now they're looking for a head coach. Also doing a slide in, the Atlanta Hawks still have the interim tag on Nate McMillan, I believe. But I cannot imagine that interim tag will stick. All right, Drink. What do you think about some of these head coaching jobs? Who do you see as being some of the possible guys that these teams will be looking at to replace some of their departed head coaches? And what jobs do you find attractive?
Okay, so I'm starting with this Hawks one. Let's go ahead and get the easy work out the way. Yeah, Nate McMillan, he gonna get elevated. Like I don't. Whenever this series is over with Philly, they probably in the lab right now working on the new contract. He's gonna be the next head coach. I don't think it's gonna be much thinking on that one. He definitely turned this team around. I mean, it wasn't. I don't know how bad they were under Lloyd Pierce, but let me tell you, he's getting all the juice out of this squeeze right now with these Hawks right now. So we're gonna get that one out the way. Now, listen, I know you said somewhat surprising about Nate Bjorken over here, and I'm assuming you saying that because he only been 1 year on the job.
Yes.
But okay, but let me tell you something. I wasn't surprised at all, buddy. Hey, this dude. If it was ever a time where you look at a coach and you say, "Dang man, this dude is over," he I don't think he grasped the concept on how to be an NBA coach. This ain't the John Calipari days where you could come in here and stink up the joint for 4 years and people gonna keep you around. We talked about this. The average coach get 3 years. And listen, if you coming in on year one like he did, and listen, folks, I'm not talking about the team performance. I know, like, it was a lot going on. Victor Oladipo, and then they got Karis LeVert, and then, like, Miles Turner didn't play most of the season, and the only guy that really showed up this season was Sabonis, and then, Malcolm Brogdon. He was, like, it's a lot of stuff that happened with the Pacers. But here's the deal. Here's my problem with Nate Bjorken over here. You've been around the NBA all this time. You finally get a shot to be a head coach, and you come out here and let the team look like they had an AAU tournament. They out here acting a fool. I can't believe this was the night where I just felt like they could have fired him and I would have been all right. That night where you had your number one assistant out here fighting off other players and other coaches just to get to another player and try to fight him during the game, during a timeout. This man is, yo, guys, wait, I'm going to F you up. And not one time did the head coach go over there and diffuse the situation. Not one time. He's standing over there like, oh, hey, I ain't got my hearing aids in. What's going on? What's going on? Like, no. Coach, go over there and calm this down. Why is your assistant coach doing all this tomfoolery? Not to mention, you already got the team out here flopping around. I think they was getting smacked around by whoever they was playing at the time. So they're not really into the game. The most action we got was that little dust up there that the head coach could have said something. So listen, man, I wasn't surprised. At the end of the day, I got it. It's the Indiana Pacers. It probably wasn't a lot of expectations put on them, but you still gotta like hold yourself to a certain standard as a head coach. And he's not it. I'm sorry. He's not it. He shouldn't be a head coach for quite a while. He got to go back and hit the books and figure out what went wrong and readjust. And we'll give you an opportunity later on down the road or something. But in the near future, nah, you're gonna be somebody first assistant or second assistant or however that go. You're done being the head coach. The Magic, Steve Clifford. Listen. There's no arguments here. Like, hey, Cliffy, you ain't done that since you've been down there. You literally haven't done nothing. Walt Disney has done more for the NBA than the Orlando Magic have. Like, yeah, let's be real here. We got more action in that bubble than we have gotten out the Orlando Magic since Shaq and since DeAndre. I mean, since Dwight Howard was there. Let's just keep it real. It ain't been much action in Orlando, so we shouldn't be so surprised. Now, if it was one, and I know me and you would probably sit, on opposite sides on this one. The Blazers, mutually parting ways with Terry Stotts, even though we heard about this back in January. I got it. People got different feelings. Like, hey, it wasn't all Terry Stotts. Who you gonna bring in that do more and this, that, and the third? I don't know. That's what they got a GM for. But all I know is Terry Stotts had he had a long enough tenure there where he should have something to show for it. Something. Okay, if you want to say his something is, hey, he made it to the Western Conference Finals. To do what? What exactly did they do in the Western Conference Finals? Give me that heartbreaking Game 7 that Steph Curry shot the ball from the parking lot, and that's how they lost the game. Okay, you got me there.
I can't give you a Game 5, so.
Yeah, right. So you can give me that, but you know what I mean? Gentleman sweep and all this, that's not it. I'm sorry. You was there, but what did you do when you was there? Like, it matters. It matters. So Stotts, it is what it is. And then Brad Stevens, listen. Now this was the flex of this right here. This was a flex by Brad Stevens. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Brad Stevens went from, if the Celtics get swept, he's out of here, to, hey, thanks for the promotion, boss. Now the joke's on you. Like, Brad Stevens, that was a nice flex. Boston hit, what did it say, hit from the blind side? That's what Boston did. So, now to go back to the second part of the question, some guys I can see replacing. I think for the Celtics, right, I think the news we hear about Lloyd Pierce or Jason Kidd, one of those two guys got a good chance, but now that I think about it, Jason Kidd would draw his name from their coaching. So I think Lloyd Pierce got a very good chance of being the head coach for Boston. And I think it's good if he's all right with all these rumors that we hear about Boston. If he's all right with that and he can handle that, and he probably can because he just got fired for apparently no reason, he would be a good candidate over there for Boston, I think, just because of I think one of the things that kind of went wrong with the Hawks is the fact he had a pretty decent blend of young guys and veterans. I don't know if he did enough listening to the Hawks, or because I felt like they should have been better, but then I understood it. And then Nate McMillan got in there and was like, yo, hold my clipboard. Let me show you how this done. So that tells me the talent was always there. The team was always there. They just wasn't receiving the right message, or they wasn't going in the right direction. Because it's not like Nate McMillan brought 3 new players with him. He got the same guys that Lloyd Pierce had. He went by it different. So Lloyd Pierce, and I do think Pierce learned some things from his failed excursion with the Hawks that he could bring to the Celtics. Now, I don't know who in the hell want to go be the coach of the Magic. I'm just telling you that right now. Good luck. God rest. God bless you. I don't know who would want that job. And to be honest with you, the Pacers, the only reason I would want that job is because I see they got pieces. Like, I see they got some guys I could probably roll with. But, I mean, I ain't itching to get up to Indiana either. You know what I'm saying? Like, I take my time with that too. So, I mean, if you want to ask, if I wanted to rate the jobs, I think the Blazers is, if I'm a coach out here and, I'm trying to get back into coaching or whatnot, I think the Blazers is the job to go for. Just because no matter what I say about the Blazers, as long as they got, Leonard and McCollum and Nurkic and these guys that seem to disappear and come back as they go, they still it's a pretty decent head coaching job. You just got to figure out how to get them over the hump. Whereas Orlando, that's decent. That's not it. The Pacers, okay, but if I'm a coach, I'm looking at the Blazers and the Celtics. I'm just gonna keep it real. I'm looking at the Blazers and the Celtics. More the Celtics than the Blazers. But if the Celtics is taken, I go with the Blazers. outside of those two, I haven't really sat down and thought about candidates. Like, I don't know who I would put with the Magic. Like, honestly, if Lou Walton got fired, I would hire him if I was the Magic GM, just because I don't, unless I'm gonna get somebody from college. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Jay Wright from Villanova. Hey, you want to come holler at your boy? Hey, I got to get me one of these guys from college at this point. And that might not be that bad of an idea for Orlando. It might not be that bad of an idea. We ain't watching you anyway, so you might well roll the dice on the college coach. He might change your fortune, and we might start watching you again. So this is why the Orlando Magic is the reason why teams get 2 national TV games, because of Orlando Magic, teams like that. So with all that said, man, listen, I thought all these fires was warranted. I think Nate McMillan will drop the interim tag ASAP once their season is done. And Brad Stevens had the best flex. Now let's see who he gets as his predecessor. And I hope he goes for someone totally opposite of him. I don't want no big brain. I just give me somebody that's gonna be pure on the court basketball, X's and O's, one of those guys. So that's my outlook on the coaching openings.
Yeah, I'll start with Atlanta. That's just a ceremonial detail. Nate McMillan has done a just tremendous job. Should be the honorable mention coach of the year in the NBA. Can't say enough about what he's done. That then the Hawks and Pacers job openings go hand in hand. I don't have much to say about Nate Bjorkgren, to be honest with you. I know it's I don't much like the fact that Lloyd Pierce got fired from Atlanta. In the end, it was they made a great decision, because now you got Nate McMillan, and it should be pretty easy to let go of a guy like that when you have a proven guy waiting in the wings who's had success in Portland, who's had success in Indiana. And Indiana should be looking at themselves like, why did we fire Nate McMillan? That's the most hilarious part. Like, they had the right guy. They just, oh, well, no more Nate McMillan. We'll get this dude in here who, I'm gonna go with what you said. Like, this dude don't appear to know what he's doing. He can't keep the sideline intact. Maybe you ought to go out there and try your hand at running a lemonade stand. Maybe you should start there. That's quite insulting. I'll apologize if he calls in to the show. Blazers, the Terry Stotts thing. We've been back and forth on that for a while. It's one of those situations where I thought Terry Stotts had a really good run. He did make a Western Conference Finals. I thought the way they performed in that series was pretty disappointing with Kevin Durant not being there. So you would have felt it would have been somewhat competitive. It was not. But I think Terry Stotts, I will say, we do have some job openings. I think Terry Stotts is a guy that should get another job. I think he had a good run. I mean, they was in the playoffs pretty much every year he was there. I'm never going to get off the fact that they had an off season where they went from Damian Lillard, Wesley Matthews, Nick Batum, LaMarcus Aldridge to Robin Lopez to losing all of those guys except Damian Lillard. And yet they still came back the very next year. They was right back in the playoffs. Those are little things that I pay attention to. And I think we all should. So, I'm not saying he necessarily will get another look this year, but I think a couple of years, another job pops up. Terry Stotts should be a guy that should get another job.
No, and I agree. I think he's a very good candidate for the Pacers. I really do think. I think the Pacers would be a really good spot, not the Magic.
Yeah, and I think, yeah. Speaking back to the Celtics, and we covered this a little bit last week, but there's a news program out there that they have a Sunday show, and they have at the end of that show they have like a Power Player of the Week. Brad Stevens should have been at. There ain't no way, like somebody, like when we go from talking about Brad Stevens as a guy like, man, should he even keep his head coach? Should he even keep his head coaching job? When we go from that to this, he the GM now? What is happening?
Yo, what
that is
flex.
I think I said it last week. That is the most shocking thing I've seen since we've been doing this show. There's a lot of things we see and like, that's a little bit surprising. That was flat out shocking that happened.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was breaking news.
Orlando, they punted on this season. They traded Vucevic, they traded Fournier, they traded Aaron Gordon. So I just looked at the roster. It's pretty putrid. I'll just say that. I don't know. Steve Clifford, this guy's he's pretty old, so I don't think he's got time to be sitting down there for the inevitable 4 or 5 year process rebuild that they about to embark upon. That they've really, in reality, been on since Dwight Howard left. They ain't done much of anything. They made it for a couple playoffs, but yeah, that job is pretty unattractive. You probably give it to some. It's got to be some young guy that's going to come up, and you got to give him. I think you got to give him a pretty significant, maybe one of them Matt Rule contracts to give him some time to get it. You're gonna be there playing the ping pong balls for a couple of years. Hope you hit it big a couple times, and you go from there. So good luck to whoever that may be. Out of the other three, though, they're all pretty decent jobs. But all three of those teams have seen varying levels of success. We think of all three of those teams as in the playoffs generally. I would go, if I had to pick a job I'd say is the best. I would actually take Indiana, and I think one of the reasons why is they just axed the dude for after 1 year. So just by that, you got to believe that the guy they hire next is gonna get a little bit of leash, because look, teams they can't be just firing coaches for 1 year. You can't be repeating that. And they also they absolutely have to. People that run that team have got to be looking in the mirror and saying, oh, "We messed up because Nate McMillan's in Atlanta now, and we just saw what happened with that." So I think whoever they get, Terry Stotts, Sam Cassell, Chauncey Billups, there's a a lot of names that are popping up, but whoever they get, I think he's going to get some leash. I think he gets a long contract. And think about the biggest thing like that has hurt Indiana here recently is injuries. Like every year they got major injuries that just derail them every single year. But you take a look, take the time to look at this roster. What they look like healthy with this starting five: Malcolm Brogdon, Karis LeVert, TJ Warren, Domantas Sabonis, and Miles Turner. That's a tremendous starting five. There's no like superstar in there that I would say. There may not even be a star, but like all of those guys are productive NBA players that have some name value too. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a really good job for maybe like reasons like maybe you got to think of just a little bit outside the box. The other two jobs are good jobs, but I do think I'm looking at Portland right now, and just I don't know. They need a splash. They need a splash, and it's just one of those places like in free agency. Like nobody. I don't really feel like nobody's going to Portland. And they're a team I think that needs another legit star to get them over the hump. And I just don't know if they can, attract that guy. And I'm also thinking about Damian Lillard, and, long term now, I know Damian Lillard has been very vocal about the fact he wants to remain in Portland, but as time goes on, things can change. And a guy looks at the legacy of his career, and you got to think like he's got to be thinking long term, like, can I win here? Because they're not. So, and I don't know how much better, they're going to get. So that's why I'm not necessarily sold on that. And in Boston, I think, as much as I think that's a really good job. It's just a weird dynamic to have a guy who was just coaching a team and had his worst season since probably the first year he was on the job, and now he gets a promotion. I think that's going to be a weird dynamic for whoever rolls in there. Like I have a hard time believing that Brad Stevens isn't going to be involved at all in like in personnel and rotation. Something tells me he's still going to have a hand in coaching the team for some reason. So with that in mind, I'm just a little less sold on that job. I don't think it's that attractive from that, mindset. But, if it is Lloyd Pierce, I think he's a guy that I would give another look to. But the biggest indictment against Lloyd Pierce is how the team performed after he got fired. Because it was like, night and day. So, I think, maybe it is Lloyd Pierce, but I also think there's some under the radar candidates who, we haven't seen a lot about in the headlines. And as it always is, there's going to be guys similar, like the guy who ended up getting the Chargers job, Brandon Staley. I don't know if we saw that come, but these under the radar guys who pop up and that we don't see coming. I think at least one of these jobs we'll see a guy who, like, oh, nobody thought of him, and it'll probably be the Magic job, but it'll be one of them.